On September 17, 1955, a Convair NB-36 Peacemaker lifted off from Carswell Air Force Base. In its bomb bay was an operating 1 megawatt nuclear reactor. These are the original photographs. The Convair NB-36H Crusader, 47 flights. The reactor was active for 89 of those total flight hours. The dream, a bomber that flies for weeks without refueling, always armed. The nightmare, every flight risks dropping radioactive fallout on any city. Both superpowers spent 15 years on this idea. United States, $1 billion by 1961. The Soviet Union matched it. Neither produced a working aircraft. On March 26, 1961, John F. Kennedy cancelled the program. Nearly 15 years and $1 billion. The possibility of a useful aircraft still very remote. It started May 28, 1946, 9 months after atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Project NEPA, nuclear energy for propulsion of aircraft. United States believed atoms would power everything. The strategy was deterrence. A fleet of nuclear bombers, always airborne, always within striking range of Moscow, would prevent any Soviet first strike. In 1951, NEPA became the ANP program. United States Air Force and the United States Atomic Energy Commission together, 8,000 contractors. Engineering effort at Manhattan Project scale. These photos show the engineering teams of the early 1950s. General Electric direct air cycle, Pratt & Whitney indirect air cycle. Two solutions, same problem. The central problem was simple. A reactor radiates lethally in every direction. Protecting the crew required tons of lead. The aircraft was too heavy. The United States Department of Defense studied a dark solution. Use elderly volunteers as pilots. They would die of cancer eventually anyway. The military considered killing its own pilots. In 1952, a tornado damaged a Convair NB-36 Peacemaker at Carswell Air Force Base. Convair suggested rebuilding it as the world's first flying nuclear testbed. The United States Air Force agreed. This is the Convair NB-36H Crusader. Wingspan 230 feet. Longest of any combat aircraft ever built. 6 piston pushers and 4 jets working together. The cockpit became a 12-ton lead and rubber capsule. Windows were thick lead glass. The reactor sat in the bomb bay. Cameras monitored everything. Test pilot Fitzhugh Fulton flew the first mission, Carswell to Roswell, 460 miles. The reactor radiated in real time. 47 flights between September 1955 and March 1957, each followed by decontamination teams searching for fallout. The danger was real. The public knew nothing. These archive photographs show the test program, lead glass windows, the radioactive trefoil on the tail, the decontamination cruise, 47 secret flights over America. The Soviets saw the American flights and concluded, incorrectly, that America had succeeded. The misunderstanding pushed Moscow to redouble its own program. Andrei Tupolev told Moscow the truth. At least 20 years to a working aircraft. Moscow refused to wait. Tupolev built a flying testbed instead. The Tupolev Tu-95LAL used liquid sodium, beryllium oxide, cadmium, paraffin wax, and steel for shielding. Same problem, same impossible engineering. Reactor never powered the aircraft. These photographs show the Tupolev Tu-95LAL, Soviet answer to the Convair NB-36H Crusader. Same dream, same dilemma, same reactor in the bomb bay. Tests began May 1961. The Tupolev Tu-95LAL flew its first nuclear test in May 1961. Between 1961 and 1969, it completed over 40 flights, most with the reactor shut down. The next step was Tupolev Tu-119, 2 normal engines, 2 nuclear, real propulsion from a real reactor, never completed. The Soviets reached the same conclusion. Beyond Tu-119 came Tupolev Tu-120, Tupolev Tu-132, Myasishchev M60, Myasishchev M30, 8 major Soviet design proposals. None ever flew. Same outcome on both sides of the Iron Curtain. In September 1959, the first ICBMs entered service. They could deliver warheads in 30 minutes, cheaper than aircraft. The reason for nuclear bombers vanished. These archive photos show obsolescence in real time. R-7 Semyorka launches 1957, SM-65 Atlas missiles in silos 1959, UGM-27 Polaris submarines on patrol 1960. Skies no longer needed. The United States Government Accountability Office report was brutal. The program was characterized by shortcuts and brute force. Still 4 years from a barely functional aircraft, Robert McNamara reviewed every program coldly. A&P had spent $1 billion and produced nothing flyable. 8,000 contractors lost their work. The Convair NB-36H Crusader was scrapped at Fort Worth in 1958, 3 years before the program officially ended. The reactor was buried. Only HTRE reactors survive. These archive photos document the burial. NB-36H, scrapped 1958. Tupolev Tu-95LAL, retired by 1969. HTRE reactors decommissioned, now museum exhibits. Atomic Aviation Graveyard. There was also Project Pluto, a nuclear ramjet cruise missile, tested at Jackass Flats May 14, 1961. It worked. Cancelled 1964. Too horrible. By 1960, the math was clear. ICBMs cost millions and could not crash on American soil. Nuclear bombers cost billions and could crash anywhere. In 1961, Soviet leadership reached the same decision: cancel everything. The Tupolev Tu-95LAL kept flying for research only. Tupolev Tu-119, Tupolev Tu-120, Myasishchev M60, Myasishchev M30, all shelved. The Brookings Institution audit found America spent roughly $7 billion on all nuclear aviation efforts. The Soviet Union spent comparably. Aircraft on nuclear power? Zero. The pilots who flew nuclear testbed flights paid prices that were never published. Long-term radiation exposure data on both crews remains largely classified. These are the men who flew. Fitzhugh Fulton, who took the Convair NB-36H Crusader up first. The Soviet Tupolev Tu-95LAL crews. Names in technical reports. Medical histories absent. Imagine the alternate 1965. American nuclear bombers on permanent airborne alert, the Soviets matching them. Cancellation may have saved millions of lives. Aviation accident rates in the 1960s averaged hundreds of crashes per year. With nuclear bombers, every crash would have been a small Chernobyl disaster. In 1966, a Boeing B-52 Stratofortress carrying hydrogen bombs collided over Palomares. Plutonium scattered across Spanish farmland. 1,400 tons of contaminated soil shipped to America. These are the Palomares photographs. 1966. 4 hydrogen bombs in Spanish farmland. A nuclear-powered bomber crash would have been 100 times worse. Nuclear submarines worked. NS Savannah sailed 1962 to 1972. Aircraft carriers run on reactors today. It just couldn't fly. After cancellation, the engineers moved to Apollo program. Reactor data went to NASA's nuclear thermal rocket studies. 15 years and $1 billion produced only byproducts. In 1961, John F. Kennedy cancelled the nuclear airplane and announced the moon landing. Same engineers, same money, same era. The atomic plane became Apollo. In 2018, Vladimir Putin announced 9 M730 Burevestnik. In August 2019, A test explosion killed 7 workers at Neonoxa. Same problems returned. These photos show the legacy. HTRE-3 reactor at Idaho National Laboratory. Tupolev Tu-95LAL in Russian aviation museums. The Convair NB-36H Crusader itself. Gone, scrapped, buried. The deepest lesson is this. Some engineering problems have no solution. Bigger budgets cannot overcome physics. 2 superpowers spent 15 years learning the same lesson. Fitzhugh Fulton, who flew the first nuclear test, later flew the North American X-15 and the shuttle carrier aircraft carrying the space shuttle. He died in 2015 at 89. The final accounting: 47 American flights, over 40 Soviet flights, billions of dollars. Aircraft that flew on nuclear power, 0. Lessons learned, many. These archive photos: Fulton in his prime, the HTRE reactors in Idaho National Laboratory, the Tupolev Tu-95LAL in its hangar. None ever flew on atomic power. Texas farmers in 1956 watched a strange bomber pass overhead. Nobody told them it was radioactive. Soviet farmers below the Tu-95LAL had the same experience. The 47 flights followed the same Texas to New Mexico route. Today, commercial airliners cross it daily. No markers. The most radioactive flight path in history is forgotten. The engineers looked back, proud and sad. Brilliant minds spent 15 years on a problem with no solution. Some impossible things really are impossible. John F. Kennedy did something rare. He looked at 15 years and $1 billion and admitted failure. Cancellation can take more courage than commitment. These final images: the reactor at Idaho National Laboratory, the Soviet flying laboratory, the lead glass cockpit, the radioactive trefoil, an idea 2 superpowers chased and abandoned together. The Texas sky looks ordinary now. Airliners cross it daily. No marker shows where America once flew nuclear reactors above its own citizens. Forgotten history.